In this day and age, we've got real-life cheat codes. What if I told you there was a way you could wake up with 10 times more energy, melt belly fat off your body with ease, remove any existing injury, and destroy signs of visible aging? This is what people are using peptides for. Now, if you don't live under a rock, you've seen peptides take the internet by storm. People are going bananas and everybody's got the same question. What are they? How do they work? More importantly, how do I use them? And that's everything we're going to cover in this video. We are going from beginner, step A, all the way to expert, step Z, and everything you need to know in between about how to use peptides to your advantage. Before I get into this video, it's important to note that I'm not a doctor and this isn't medical advice. This video is purely for science and your entertainment. I'm just a guy who's used nearly every peptide on the planet, and I just like to share my experience about how everything has worked for me. You're gonna hear a lot of different people give you their input on the way things should work. I like to give my input on the way they have worked for me. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the video. Starting with everybody's first question, what is a peptide? And you're not gonna believe how simple this is. A peptide is simply a branch chain of amino acids. Imagine your body as a big Lego castle, and every different colored brick is a different kind of amino acid. Red for muscle, blue for energy, green for sleep. All of these different colors have different mechanisms for the way that they work in your body. Now, this Lego castle already exists, right? This is what happens in your body naturally. You have different amino acids that tell your body to perform certain functions. A peptide, simply put, is just the combination of a few of those bricks that are designed for a specific purpose. Here's what I mean. Peptides are nothing more than a set of instructions for your body. Unlike supplements, vitamins, steroids, prescription pills, all of those are chemical compounds that were made in a lab that were designed to enter the body to create its own mechanism, not an existing mechanism. The difference with a peptide is it's only telling your body to perform a mechanism that it already does. Just do it at a higher rate. For example, let's say I take an injury recovery peptide. We didn't create a new chemical that is going to go in the body and miraculously start healing it from an outside source. All we're doing is telling our body to do the natural healing mechanism that it would already do anyway, but just do it at a faster and better rate. That's what peptides are. Nearly all of the peptides that exist in the marketplace already exist in your body. You're not putting anything into it that isn't already there. Turns out peptides are everywhere. They're in your food, they're in your saliva, they're in almost everything. It's not some sci-fi project. Which brings us to the next question everybody asks, is this natural? And to me, the answer is a resounding yes. If I'm not changing the chemical composition of my body, and all I'm doing is telling it to perform a mechanism that it already does, nor can it really be shown on a drug test of any kind, to me that's natural. If you can't prove that it's in the body, then it's natural. How are you going to prove something that's already there? The peptides we buy and use are just like carbon copies of the mechanisms that already exist in your body. It just helps your body do it more naturally. The way I like to look at it is imagine you've got your iPhone, and every so often a software update comes out that makes the iPhone function better. It doesn't mean that you don't have an iPhone anymore or that it was not the same iPhone you bought when you bought it. It just has a little bit faster processing speed and can do some new cool tricks. A lot of people are always curious on how these are created. Now, what I always tell people is make sure that you're getting these from a pharmacy and not from some online research site, because you have no idea how those are getting made. But the ones that are made correctly are made like this. Most start in labs on a process called solid phase peptide synthesis. And all that means is it's basically like 3D printing peptides and branched chain amino acids. Scientists are taking these little amino acids and attaching them to chains. Imagine it like marshmallows on a stick, right? You can add 2, 3, 4, depending on how hungry you are. Then all of a sudden, you've got a monster s'more sandwich. That's your peptide. Now again, the facility you're buying these peptides from is going to make a drastic difference in the efficacy and the safety of them, because there's a lot that has to happen in order to physically move molecules like that. It has to be done with very precise machines to ensure its safety. I personally don't trust any platform that you can just go on and order them like a t-shirt. That usually implies that they were made in some sort of backdoor method. Anything that comes from a real pharmacy and a real organization, you usually need a prescription for. That's where I like to dwell. That's just a personal preference because I take so many of these that even if it's a 1 in 10 chance that anything goes wrong, I'm on 15 of them right now. I would already be dead. So I'd rather just avoid the risk and go the pharmaceutical route. Which brings us to our next point, are peptides dangerous? And the answer for me always remains the same. They have a pretty risk-free safety profile, especially the 10 to 20 most common ones people are using. There's so few side effects for the most popular peptides out there that it really begs the question of why they were even banned in the first place. The real safety concern, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, just comes down to where you're sourcing these things from. Do not try to save 50 or $100 by ordering them off some Chinese website. It's not worth the sterility risk. Most of these companies are only testing for purity. They're only going to slap a label on it that says 99% pure, which by the way is very easy to fake by just sending one batch out that is really, really pure and then never making a batch like that again, but you get to keep that little sticker. The other side of it is Sterility and your endotoxin report is much more important because that's the part that's going to give you side effects. That's the part that's going to give you problems. The peptide itself is not the issue, but even the slightest contamination can give you a wildly adverse reaction, which is why we see some people on the internet who have ordered their peptides off some less than reputable sources getting all sorts of infections. Now, me personally, I've never had any problem with this because I just get my stuff from the right. The only people that I suggest stay away from peptides are anybody with a history of cancer. A lot of these peptides are known for their extreme ability to increase cellular health and cellular function, but that also means cancer cells. And that's the last thing we want growing. So if you're anybody who's got cancer history or cancer in your family, I would advise you proceed with extreme caution or just avoid entirely. But outside of that, I haven't seen too many people that don't fit the profile for peptides. Now the question everybody wants answered: how do I use them? Well, the answer is pretty simple. If you're getting them from a pharmacy, they should already arrive to you liquid. Some of the research sites will come in a powder form, lyophilized, and then you input your own water. When you're ordering from pharmacy, it should come already liquid, so it's really basic. All you do is load a syringe. I use a subcutaneous needle. It's a little insulin needle. You can barely feel it. And all you do is load the peptide into the syringe based on whatever your doctor told you the appropriate dosing was. And then you just inject that into any piece of fat. Mine usually is most prominent in the lower stomach. And then you can do that in the morning, at night, depending on the protocol for the peptide. Some of them you need to be fasted. Some of them you need to have on a full stomach. Some are best in conjunction with other vitamins. And I have a lot of different peptides on those kind of rules if you want to get more in the weeds. Now, by this point in the video, you're probably asking yourself, what are these things really used for? I've seen some stuff online, but what can you really do with them? And the answer is there is a peptide for everything. I'll tell you some of the results that I've seen from peptides that are undeniable and some of the ones that I'm still not completely sold on. Number one is injury recovery. This one I saw firsthand several times. I'll show you. You can see I've got a scar on my finger there. You can also see my knuckles are a little beat up from boxing today. But I sliced my finger and got a septic infection on my finger, and I had to go get surgery. They ended up telling me that that surgery recovery time was going to be about 3 months. With the use of BPC-157 and TB-500, I was back lifting weights in 3 weeks. They were blown away. They had never seen anything like it. Now, this was before peptides were mainstream. So when I told them what I was doing, they kind of looked at me like I was using steroids. But it absolutely worked. And then I've used it again on different chest strains. That was always been an issue for me, especially with benching heavy. I couldn't do it. I can now do that perfectly fine, and I didn't have to go any sort of physical therapy. So I absolutely believe injury recovery is a huge, huge component of peptides. Popular ones for that are going to be your BPC-157, your TB-500. GHK copper is actually really good on your ligaments. I've got a full video on GHK. KPV, master anti-inflammatory in the body. And then any of the growth hormone secretagogues is also going to be really helpful when it comes to overall injury recovery. Next is energy level. And this comes from a few different ones, but I have seen firsthand the ability to increase my energy output, whether that comes from cellular energy, whether that comes from being better rested, whether that comes from having a clearer mind. All of these outcomes are completely attainable by peptide use alone. One of the most popular things I've used in this category are NAD+, and although it's not technically a peptide, before you guys start coming at me in the comments, it works just like one. But NAD+ is really great in terms of your cellular energy. I've gotten really great results with epitalon. I'm resetting my ability to sleep properly. That gave me bursts and bursts of energy when I finished that cycle. And on the topic of NAD and epitalon, expanding lifespan. You heard me, expanding lifespan. You can live longer using peptides. In clinical trials, epitalon users are seeing a 30% increase in their lifespan, and NAD+ the same, because you're increasing the cellular activity. Your cells are not decaying and dying at the same rate, so you're able to literally stay alive, healthy, and functioning longer. People make jokes about this stuff all the time. It's like, oh, you're going to die when you're 50. No, I'm going to outlive you and everyone you know because I'm using these. You know, it's funny. I've got a girl in the customer service department at my company, and she says all the time, she's like, your heart's going to pop. She's always so worried. And I try every day to convince her, like, no, as a matter of fact, because I'm using things like tadalafil to help my blood pressure, I'm actually going to have a stronger heart than you and anyone you know. But how do you explain that to somebody who's been fed the medical crap that we've been fed our entire lives as Americans? Another one on the longevity side that's not technically a peptide but falls in the same family, glutathione. This is your body's master antioxidant. I've had really, really positive effects when it comes to detoxing my liver and increasing the health of my brain. I am someone who used to party and drink a lot of alcohol. I don't really do it anymore. But that damage takes a toll on your liver for doing it for that long. The glutathione is really effective at going in and reverting a lot of that damage. NAD is really helpful on this side too. Probably the most notable thing peptides are getting used for right now is fat loss. And yes, you can do it. And yes, it works fast. There are compounds out there that melt body fat off of you, and you really don't have to move all that much. Now, if you said this 5 years ago in the fitness community, you would have been looked at like a clown, like somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Now this stuff is so readily available that there's really no excuse to be overweight. On the other side of that coin is muscle building, and I have seen incredible results when it comes to the GH secretagogues, which is growth hormone secretagogues. Now, I know that sounds scary for someone who's never used them before. It sounds like you're doing steroids or something that's going to kill you. But again, remember, we're not injecting exogenous growth hormone into our bodies. All we're doing is telling our bodies, hey, pulse more of your own growth hormone. Go ahead and make more of what you're already making. Your body makes tons of growth hormone when you're going through adolescence. This is why you get taller. This is why you can recover super quick. This is why you're in your best athletic form. All we're doing is giving your body to continue to produce its own growth. And when you're producing growth hormone, you get really great effects in terms of being able to keep and retain muscle mass, as well as lose fat, sleeping better, better skin, better hair, the whole gambit. On the topic of sleeping better, that's definitely an area I've gotten great results with when it comes to things like Selenk, when it comes to things like delta sleep-inducing peptide, epitalon again, pinealon. There's some really positive effects when it comes to how you're able to get your body to get into resting state, stay in that deep delta sleep, and wake up refreshed and refurbished. Now, I could sit here and tell you all day about the things I'm doing to increase my cognitive abilities, my immune system, my mitochondria, everything in between. But what I do want to tell you is some things I don't believe peptides can do. Number one and most important, none of this stuff is a magic pill. If you are still eating like crap and not exercising, none of this stuff is just going to completely take over your body unless you're using a GLP-1, which is just going to starve you. And yes, you'll lose weight, but you're going to lose a ton of muscle and you're not really going to look the way you want to look. So everything we're talking about in this video should not be the only thing you're doing. It comes accompanied with a good diet, with a good exercise routine, and it makes those results happen way faster. So I don't want you to look at this as something I do so that I don't have to work out. It's something I do so that working out doesn't take me 2 years to get the results I want. I can get them in a few months. These are also, for the most part, not going to work like pharmaceutical drugs. Let's say I take something like a Xanax, right? That is going to completely numb my body, and my body will be chemically altered for the time that drug is active. Peptides don't work so much in this fashion. It's not something that's going to take over your being and completely shift your day-to-day life. It's really just like an add-on or a power-up rather than shooting yourself with gamma radiation to turn into the Hulk. Now, as someone who's tried a lot of different peptides, here are the ones I would recommend for someone who's just starting out. I think almost everybody can benefit from NAD+. That's going to be your cellular energy, mitochondrial health. It's really good for your brain, your focus. Nobody's upset if they have more energy, but it's not like Adderall where you're going to be cracked out and not able to sleep. It's a clean, calm energy. I'm also a huge proponent of anybody who's injured using BPC-157 and TB-500. The side effect risk is so low that anybody who's experiencing these injuries would mostly benefit from using BPC and TB-500. It's going to drastically increase the healing rate of whatever your injury is. End of story. Glutathione's another one I think almost everybody can benefit from, unless you're someone who's never drank alcohol, always had a perfect diet, never had seed oils, never had any of these things that are toxic to the body. Glutathione's main job is to take all of those heavy metals and those toxins from our food, alcohol, any of the crap that we consume, and make it water soluble so that we can drink water and pee it out. So I'm a big fan of glutathione, and I think most people can benefit from it. Again, unless you're already perfect, then you don't want to overdo it. And the last one I'll go ahead and recommend, again, not technically a peptide, is enclomiphene. Enclomiphene is a testosterone supplement. Now, again, I know how it sounds. Don't worry. It works just like a peptide. You are not injecting exogenous testosterone. It's actually an oral pill. You take it, it sends a signal from your pituitary gland down to your, and it tells your body to make more testosterone naturally. And unlike testosterone that shrinks your balls, it actually makes them a little bit bigger. Nice side effect. But most men today do suffer from low or declining testosterone. It's in everything we do. It's in the food. It's in our water. There's so many microplastics and endocrine disruptors. It's in all of our clothes. All of these little microplastics have a huge role in the way that our sperm production and our testosterone production functions as men. This number is declining. It is an undebatable science. It's not about right or left. There's no one that can argue that. Now, I recommend enclomiphene because it is going to help increase your production, but it's not going to come with the risk profile of something like testosterone replacement therapy does, where you can shut down your natural production or lose your hair or get acne or any of these things you hear. Now, TRT doesn't really do that stuff either if it's done appropriately. This is, again, the difference between going through a doctor versus going through some random source who told you, just trust me, bro, inject this. You're going to feel great, which you are. But then you'll start getting side effects. Enclomiphene doesn't come with any of that risk. I have had great results with it. I've given it to a lot of different people and they've had phenomenal results. Everybody comes back saying they felt better. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody come back with any of the typical side effects associated with higher testosterone. So if you thought this video was interesting and you want to learn more about peptides, I have got a full page dedicated to the nitty-gritty, learning how each individual one works and how you can use it best for yourself. So if you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section telling me what goal you want to have with peptides, and I'll tell you guys exactly what you can do to make that happen. We'll see you in the next one.